What's happening, everybody? Nice, cool, brisk morning here in Michigan. Thermometer over there is reading 58 degrees. I love spring and I love fall because of the cooler temperatures. Perfect working weather. I can handle some summer heat, 70s, 80s, as long as there's no humidity. As soon as the humidity comes in, count me done. So, perfect day. Today we're going to be getting in the meat and potatoes of spark plug heat ranges. Does it actually matter what heat range you run in your engine? Absolutely. And now that you guys know in the last couple videos that we got our fueling super close. I feel that the fueling is 99.9% on point. Off camera, I did go through and drop from a 35 squirter or shooter, whatever you want to call it, down to a 32, which is going to give us a longer pump shot range by dropping to the 32. And I think that's going to be money because we went from before to a dead hammering, from a dead stop, just hammering the throttle, to a big bog and then coming on and slowly getting up there to, you guys seen in the last video, bringing the converter up a little bit, smashing the throttle, and just blowing the tires off and pulling hard. So I figured our 60 foot's back. And before we started messing around with this tighter converter, the car hooked pretty decent on the street. I mean, it would spin these, Mickey Thompsons a little bit, but man, I tell you what, it's blowing them off now. So now that we got the fueling correct and I feel it's running good, I figured this would be a good time to get into a video about spark plug heat ranges. Because as you guys seen in the last video, we pulled some plugs out of here and it was checking out the tune, the timing and all that. And I feel they were on the cold side, which they're NGK, the 8s, number 8s. NGK scales, they go from 2 is the hottest to 11 is the coldest. And we're running an 8. So am I going to be able to tell you guys what heat range is perfect for your combination? Probably not. If you get a guy on here who says, well, hey, me and my cousin just pulled a 350 out of a 77 Blazer and we put a set of Camelback heads on it, a 3/4 race cam, and a 750 double pumper. What heat range am I going to need for that? Don't know. Or, hey, I got a 496 with a fogger and a plate system. What heat range? Don't know. All I know is that what we started out at and where we're working up to on our own combination. It takes into a consideration on heat ranges what compression ratio you got, the CC of your head, the fuel you're running, what RPM you're spinning your engine up to, combustion or cylinder pressure. So if you're running nitrous, if you're running turbo, if you're just doing it on the street. So we're going to go over today on where we started out and what the manufacturers of head designs, because when I bought these AFR heads, they come with your manual. It tells you about your rocker studs, your valves, your springs, spark plugs, recommendations. Well, they recommended from AFR that we started out with an Autolite spark plug, anywhere from a 3922 to a 3924. And I can tell you one thing, they were garbage. We started in the middle with the heat range on that. We dropped down to the 22s, or the 24s is the hotter one on that. It's opposite of what NGK is. NGK, the higher the number, the colder the plug. Where versus Autolite, the higher the number, the hotter the plug. So we kind of experimented back and forth with that. We kept following out. We had misfire conditions, just cruising down where it would follow them out. So in my opinion, for my own setup, this is not dogging anybody else's setup or what combination or what spark plug you use. My own personal experience, Autolites, and this particular combination, garbage. We switched to the NGKs, and we've had nothing but good luck. But I feel that we can go up in a heat range. I've actually talked to a buddy that's running a 6.0 with a 250 shot. He's only sprayed at 200 so far, but he's using a 7, an NGK 7. And I already, I haven't even sprayed this. We're cruising around, and the plug looks cold, and we're not even spraying it yet. So maybe when we spray it, if he's getting away with spraying a 200, 250 shot on a 7, because they say that the medium or the middle point on an average small block Chevy, NGKs, I did some research, the most common plug use for like a mild build to a stock engine is going to be your heat range number 5. So with 150 shot is what we have, already jetted into the kit. So that would be 2 steps colder from where NGK recommends that you have a starting point. I'm not going to drop down to a 5 and try it. I have a set of 7s on the shelf. We're going to throw a set of 7s in it, and we're going to go out and do some more testing on just NA and see how the plugs look. See if they're anywhere from NGK recommends, this is on any spark plug, not just NGK, but you have to have between 500 and 800 degrees of heat in your plug for it to burn right. Anything over 800 degrees, obviously you're going to start getting detonation and melting the tips a little bit and bubbling of the porcelain. That's a good sign that you're running too hot of a plug. If you're running anything below 500 degrees, there's not 500 degrees in the plug, then you're going to get the gassy, fouling out spark plugs, the black plug all the time. Even though your fueling's right, the spark ain't going to be hot enough to burn all the fuel and everything off of the plug. So I'm going to grab a few spark plugs. We're going to kind of go over a couple things. I do have a couple snapshots that I took off of the internet on how you can tell the difference. I'm actually going to try and probably cut a spark plug's threads off and show you where the fueling ring is on the porcelain and show you the difference between the porcelain of a cold plug and a hot plug and an extended tip versus the NGK's nitrous plug, the inverted tip. So we're going to get into it, so hang with us. Alrighty, I dug a couple plugs out of my junk drawer. Why I save junk spark plugs, I have no clue. I just do. I probably go through and throw them all away, but they're good for educational purposes like this. And this is not, we're not looking at leanness or richness on these plugs. I know that they're super rich. We're looking at the heat line. I want to show you where to look for the heat line to tell you if your plug is in the correct heat range. Like I said earlier, if you're too cold of a plug, you're going to get gassy, fouled out plugs. If it's too hot, you're going to see bubbling of the porcelain, signs of detonation on the porcelain, like little speckles, or even like the corners of your strap. If you're not running nitrous, the straps will be kind of melty and kind of crappy. But we haven't got into the running nitrous and burning the straps completely off. But anyways, I got a couple plugs pulled out and I wanted to show you. The one on the left here is our Autolite 3924, which was running very cold because you can see at the top of the plug, you can see that where the black line is just above the threads there. That's actually a heat indication of where the heat was. It didn't even make it down into the first thread of the plug. And on this one is an NGK number 5. I don't know what it came out of, but you can actually see the heat line down into the third thread on the plug. And here is one of my new V-Power 7s that we're going to be putting on, which you guys can tell the difference. It's a non-projected tip. These ones are projected tips. Usually projected tips you're running like stock applications or mild build. They tend to run hotter to burn off more gas and carbon. But if you got any type of power or compression, you would want to run the non-projected tip. That way it doesn't blow out the plug. And on a spark plug, the thicker the porcelain on the inside of the thread area, on the inside where your porcelain, the thicker the porcelain means a colder plug. What that means is that the porcelain will transfer heat to the threads of the plug and into the head, and then obviously your cooling system is going to cool that off. That's a colder plug. And that's how you can tell if it's a colder plug, the size, the diameter of the porcelain versus, like, this is a 5 here, and you can see the porcelain is in the middle there. Now, if that was a 10, that porcelain would be out towards the outer edge of that plug and it would cool faster. Because the hotter the plug, with that porcelain being skinnier in the middle of the plug, it holds the heat longer. So, and another big factor that takes part on what heat range you're going to want to run is your fuel. I didn't say that on the earlier part of the video, but that's a big part of it too. As of right now, you guys know that we've been out testing the El Camino, and we got pretty much all 93 Ultra Shell Premium in this. Pretty much all pump gas. I haven't went and got any of my race fuel jugs filled. I usually run 50-50. So when we go out and after we put the 7s in here, I'm going to do the 50-50 mix again, and we'll go from there to see how the plugs look and what the heat range, make sure the heat range is coming down into our threads and that we're burning cocoa brown on the porcelain. Because if you guys remember on the last video when I pulled my plug, the porcelain was still white and there was no heat signs on the threads at all. It looked pretty much brand new. Versus that middle one, you can tell where the heat is. Versus this Autolite plug, didn't have enough heat in it. So I actually cut an old plug out. I don't know what it's out of. But yeah, this one was running super fat. Super fat. What you want to look for your fueling ring is going to be down here towards the base of this porcelain. And it's going to be the size, probably a little bit wider than what this screwdriver tip is. And what you're looking for there is a nice cocoa brown line that runs the size of a pencil lead. If you were to draw a perfect circle from a pencil around that porcelain, cocoa brown, or even a grayish line you're looking for. You don't want black, which this is super black, and that is super wide. So I don't know what this came out of. It's an NGK racing plug, but whatever it was, she was way fat. But like I said earlier, I feel that we have the tune super close on this. I'm actually going to pull 2 plugs out and check them. We have idle time on this. Like I told you guys, I changed the squirters out and checked my timing. My timing was at 34 degrees, by the way. So we bumped it up to 36, 37 degrees right in that area. The distributor is locked out, so we put a couple more degrees of timing in it. And, with running pump gas, I was kind of happy with, the retardant of the timing. So, but I still feel it was safe. There was no signs of detonation on the plug. But like I said, we're going to go back to 50-50 mix. We're going to run the 7s. And we're going to see how this reacts with the NGK V-Power 7s in here. So I'm going to pull a couple of these spark plugs, maybe number 1 and maybe 1 on this side. On a small block Chevy, your number 4 and 6 are your hottest cylinders, and 3 and 5 on the driver's side is your hottest cylinders, obviously, because both your exhaust valves are side by side, so it makes a lot of heat on them cylinders. Kind of a shitty design that Chevy came out with, but it is what it is. But when I put the 8s in there, and they all look good. I mean, they all look consistent. Them cylinders weren't running hotter than the other ones, so I figured we were good there. So I'm going to pull a couple of them plugs out. Like I said, it does have some idle time on it from us changing them squirters around and just sitting here idling and messing around with it and changing timing. So they might be black or they might not be. I won't know until I pull them out, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull them out, and I'll bring you guys right back. Alrighty. Well, I just decided to go ahead and pull the steering shaft out and pull all the plugs. That way I could get a reading. The first couple plugs I pulled was just like I thought, nice and black. As you guys can see here, I got my steering shaft out on this small block Chevy in this car with the bigger diameter headers with the angle plugs. It's damn near impossible to get number 5 and 7 out of there without pulling the steering shaft. So I just decided to go ahead and just get it done, get it over with, the way I can compare them all on the bench. And I was correct. The 15-20 minutes of idle time that I have on this from changing the squirters and changing the timing, it did blacken the plugs. So we're not going to be able to get any good data. But these are 1, 3, 5, and 7. 2, 4, 6, 8. You can see number 8 is pretty wet. She was probably following. She was on the verge. If it wasn't following or followed, it was right close to being done. And there was a little bit, number 4 was also, I have a little wetness on it, but as you guys can see though, they're all consistent. There's none hotter on the middle ones than the outers. But number 8 plugs for idling and cruising around normal, if you're not spraying nitrous, is too cold of a plug for my setup. I need to go down to the 7, and obviously we can't let it idle, so I'm going to have to put the 7s in it, which is not going to be on this video. I'll save that video for next video. I'll get the 7s in it, and we'll take it down the road, and we'll give her the beans, and then we'll pull over. And I'll pull 2 plugs, one from each side, and make sure that they're not, no signs of detonation or nothing like that, and see where the heat range is on the threads. And I think it'll be happier with the 7s. Now, when we go to spray this, that might be a different story. Just because one guy, like I said, my buddy got away with it, doesn't mean that I'm going to get away with it. Every combination is different. Like I said, I can't tell you what your heat range is going to be. We're just working at this together. For all you DIY guys, you guys got to, the best thing I can tell you, if you're not running nitrous, start at a 5, work your way up, and see where it's the happiest. And you're not following plugs. The plugs are burning clean, nice cocoa brown, or even the grayish color, and go from there. So I still feel my fueling is spot on. So getting the heat range correctly will help clean up the plugs at idle too when I'm sitting in traffic, because we're cruising this around. So I don't want to, keep following plugs. I haven't followed any out yet, but I tell you, by the way them looked, we were darn close to following it out, just idling around. I mean, when we cruised it before on the last video and went and did our hits, we were beating on it pretty good, so it kept the plugs clean. But if we were to idle it around or try and get in traffic or something, the 8s just ain't going to cut it. So we're switching to the 7s, and we'll go out and give her a shot. But that'll be on the next video. So hopefully this video gave you guys some kind of information. I'm not perfect. I don't claim to know it all. But I am a DIY guy, so I do everything myself. And we're creeping up on everything, and I like bringing you guys along. So stay tuned for the next video where we get the number 7s in there, and we go out for a rip, and we'll take it apart and see what they look like. But until next time, I really appreciate everybody for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next video. All right, bye-bye.